there are two hidden, overlooked reasons why you're not turning symptoms around. Autism symptoms like stimming, eloping, screaming, sensory issues, sleeplessness, picky eating, and how to make this happen quicker and safer. One of the reasons is biblical. It is spiritual in nature. And the other reason is the way that you address, diagnose, and treat the symptoms. So let's dive into how you can change this by shifting your thinking and by understanding God's plan. Welcome to the Barefoot Autism Warriors podcast. I'm Ninka Bernadette Mauritzson, and my son lost all the symptoms that gave him the diagnosis in 2004. Stimming, sleepless nights, eloping, tantrums, rigidity, aggression, sensory issues, echolalia, and is now living independently without those symptoms. As a journalist and an ex-New Age autism mom saved by Jesus in 2020, I'm navigating all this, and I'm all about stopping moms just like yourself running on that hamster wheel of ineffective therapies, protocols, practitioners, deception and distractions in the mainstream and holistic world. If less symptoms, more independence, more speech, peace, God and joy is your plan, you're in the right place. People will tell you that you should be ashamed for even thinking this, so this is me saying it out loud and giving you permission to think and say this to yourself. You don't want to be a full-time carer for an autistic child for life. You don't want to be carrying diapers and preventing someone from getting into danger or having tantrums play out in front of you as you are trying to take care of a 17-year-old or even a 20-year-old who still has the symptoms that you're dealing with now. If you were into monitoring people 24/7 for a living and prevent them from getting into danger or death, you would have been a bodyguard for a living, or a soldier, a marine, right? You are a highly intelligent, driven woman who happened to have a child with autism. It is okay for you to want to sleep at night. It is okay for you to want to go and visit friends without fearing the next tantrum or eloping or danger. It is okay for you to want to be able to read a book at the beach at some point in your life without having to monitor somebody else. You are allowed to want to avoid dealing with an adult who has autism symptoms that prevent that person from independence and a dignified, decent life. You want independence for your child and yourself, and that is okay. Quite frankly, you want a life too. You want independence at some point. And that can only happen if your child experiences independence as well. Because you're so highly intelligent and driven, you probably already know that tantrums, eloping, stimming, screaming, sensory issues, sleeplessness, picky eating can be treated because you've seen it happen to others. You've seen it. You might have listened to my podcast and the interviews that I've done with moms like Nicole. Her child went from eating cat poop and eloping through the window at midnight to none of those symptoms and functioning like a neurotypical child. Or Danielle, from constant spinning and no bonding and OCD to none of those. If you are thinking like this, why am I not helped? Why is my child not getting better no matter what I do? If you're frustrated with God because why is this happening to my child? Why me, God? I want to cover the two roadblocks in your thinking and in your relationship with God and understanding of God's plan that blocks the turnaround results in your life. I want to share with you why this happens. Why are you at point A when you want to be at point B? And how to make that happen. And no, this is not about you needing to do more research. That's not what you need to do. You are not too late. Your child is not too old or too bad to be helped. You do not need a heavy metal detox or a different supplement or another diet or another practitioner to figure out what triggers symptoms and what to do about them. But there are two things in your thinking and the way that you treat and address your child's symptoms that is blocking results from you right now. I want you to change that. Replace your strategy with something that really works. So there are two reasons why you are not seeing any change, and I want to shift that for you. One is biblical. It is spiritual, and I want you to stick to the end because I'll share that at the end of this podcast episode. But you need to know what I have to say about the way that you think about symptoms first. Do stick to the end because the insights that you're getting at the end of this podcast might actually change your life and the way that you feel about the prison that you're in right now. Number one reason why you're not seeing results is that you are not thinking and diagnosing your child like a turnaround leader. Different thinking of the moms that are really seeing results, moms that are in my podcast, the testimonials, the success stories, and moms who never really get any significant change. And when that happens, you are actually replacing slavery to autism with slavery to tests, practitioners, people, diets, supplements. And because you're not thinking and addressing symptoms the way that you have to in order to see real change, you will have blind spot after blind spot, roadblock after roadblock, standing between where you're at now and where you want to be with less symptoms and a more independent child and more independence for you. So a lot of moms come to me thinking that they are turning symptoms around while they are actually maintaining symptoms, blocking results. Do you actually know what works for your child and what works against your child's turnaround process? Do you know exactly what's triggering your child's symptoms? If you don't know how to and when to start a certain food or a supplement and when to stop it, you are operating from a strategy that looks like Russian roulette. If you don't know exactly what works for your child and what is triggering symptoms, when to start and stop a supplement, food, diet, or a therapy, you have now replaced slavery to autism with slavery to other people, practitioners, and tests, because you will be depending on somebody else to tell you what to do, to tell you what to feed your child, to tell you what a symptom means and what to do about it. That's a huge problem. That is a prison, and it will never lead to lasting change. A big problem here. 70 to 80% of all the holistic practitioners out there are not cued in on how to tailor the approach to actually help your child, because your child's needs change all the time. What works for your child today is not going to work next month. That goes for the supplements, the diets. It is an organic process. And if you keep doing the same things, you will get different results. Even a test that you do today will give you different results if you do the same test with the same child a month from now. So these holistic practitioners, 7 to 80% of them, this is something I've seen over the past 18 years, they will not be able to give you lasting results because they're not cued in on methylation and the complexity of it. They're not cued in on the bio-individuality in your child and how organic that process is. tailoring an approach to your child's ever-changing needs can only be led by you. You can only be led if you know what to do, how to do it, if you are connected to God and God's plan, which is what I'm going to show you at the end of this podcast. What does that mean? These practitioners, they'll still be talking about MTHFR and give you protocols based on that, which will make children worse. They'll still be giving multivitamins, which will make a lot of children worse. They'll give you probiotics, bone broth, autism diets that will make symptoms worse down the line. They'll be into killing, binding, and treating symptoms, while that's actually going to make your child worse over time. So it's a failing approach, and it's a new type of slavery where you for life will be dependent on somebody to tell you what to do, and that somebody will not be cued in on what actually works and doesn't work for your child. So that's why when moms come to me and they've done all these things and they've seen it doesn't work, we implement the 5 turnaround pillars that I use to turn my son's screaming, eloping, sleepless nights, sensory issues, aggression, picky eating around, to turn you into an expert. I'm not becoming the expert. I'm not going to be your guru. And I'm showing you how you become an expert in reading these symptoms. It's like learning a language. And adjusting your approach accordingly. The only way to address those ever-changing needs. It's to be able to look at your child, know what's triggering a symptom, what works for that, and what works against turning that symptom around. That is how we do that. So when you come to me, you learn how to look at a symptom and understand why it happens. These 5 turnaround pillars work in 3 different categories. Number 1 is the foundation, where we are changing the neurology in your brain and in your child's brain so that you understand the message behind each symptom, but also so that your brain actually is willing to change. Because so many moms think they're doing what they need to do to change these symptoms, and their brain is working against it. Because the brain hates change. It will do anything to maintain status quo. And you can only address that by physically changing the brain and the way that it works. Not by positive thinking, not by manifestation, not by any of the things that people do out there. You need to understand that you need to change the brain, and how to do that. You need to understand the role of your nervous system, because your state of your heart and your nervous system affects your child's immune system, gut, detoxification process. So unless you build that foundation in season 1 in the turnaround process, you won't be understanding the symptoms and be able to change them. So in the first collection of pillars, we build that foundation so that you understand the message behind each symptom, and you start thinking the way that you need to dial in the turnaround process, to change these symptoms and to understand God's plan. We'll get to that in a moment. Then number 2, we are changing emotionally and physically. When we build the foundation, we understand why a symptom happens, and it's interpreting and diagnosing. By lived experience, you become the diagnoser, because you are the mom who can always monitor your child. Nobody else can take that job from you and that responsibility from you. So when you know why a symptom is happening, we go to phase number 2, where we heal these things by understanding that emotionally and physically you need to heal to help your child, because you can only heal, change, and understand your child to the level you've healed, changed, and understood yourself. So in season 2, we lead by example, because our child also picks up on our state, our thinking, and their heart rate, breathing patterns, immune system, gut detoxification pathways are affected by whether or not we are at peace in our nervous system, whether or not we are healed physically and emotionally, and understand ourselves and our own symptoms. So if you can't look at your symptom and know exactly what to do about it, how are you going to do that for your child, right? So that's what we do in season 2. And then finally, you understand the biochemistry the way that 70 to 80% of the practitioners out there don't, because they don't understand the complexity of methylation. They don't understand your child's bio-individual biochemical triggers and to adjust and tailor the diets and the supplements to that. So you understand the missing links and gaps in the holistic functional medicine field out there. And I've sat down with the best practitioners in the world. We sat down for 2 years to teach you how to lead that journey, to become that expert that you've looked for in all the wrong places. So that's step number 1, to turn symptoms around in a more safe way. And now let's get to the biblical scriptural and why that is so important. And by the way, I am now taking in moms for the waitlist for the fall season of the turnaround process. So if this resonates with you, go to the description, leave a message. You can leave a voice message directly in the description, or you can send an email. I'll leave the link, so you just click it. Send me your problems and your dreams, your vision, and then we'll audit what's your roadblocks, what is standing between you and that result, and how can we work together. Don't hesitate, because now is the time that I'm auditing moms for the fall season and the winter season of the turnaround process. When the seeds are gone, they're gone, and you won't be able to get in until we get to probably spring, maybe even summer next year. Okay, reason number 2. The most important reason. It took me years to fully understand. I was so in rebellion, and I was in New Age spirituality, leaning on my own understanding, not giving God the glory for what had happened to my child for many years. I don't want you to make the same mistake. If you have this idea of turning symptoms around, you have to understand that God gave you that vision. God gave you that vision of what can be possible in your life. Listen, my child went from screaming, eloping, not being able to drive a car with us, not able to speak, not able to bond. He never slept. He was just out of control. Everybody told us, give him up, put him in an institution. He's ruining your life. The diagnosis said approximately the same thing. The miracle happened when I started to listen to the instructions that I got, but it took me decades to actually glorify God for the way that He showed me who He wanted me to become through autism. And I've since realized that autism is a wake-up call. God is taking us out of Egypt. He is removing us from slavery. The topic for this podcast is don't replace slavery to autism with slavery to practitioners and tests. He took me away from slavery, and just like the Israelites, I rebelled against him, and I didn't give him glory for the miracles that happened in my child's life. He went from not being able to sleep, screaming all the time, eloping, always being in danger, couldn't even take him for a ride, he couldn't take a shower, he had that many sensory issues, night terrors, picky eating, no speech, no communication, to none of those symptoms, functioning as a neurotypical individual with all the independence that requires. He's the one who takes care of me now. He's the one who drives me around now. He's the one who has the emotional intelligence to analyze family members and what we're doing wrong. So if that is your vision, God gave you that vision. And it is a vision of who God wants you to become. Habakkuk 2, verses 2-3. Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Your new man, when you are reborn in Christ and you die to your old self, God wants you to become someone you've never been. And when He gives us that vision, He then takes you through the dark valleys to beat and batter us into the shape of that vision. He is testing us. He is disciplining us. 1 Peter 4:12 ESV. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. And that is when most people cave in and lose hope and take over and become self-reliant. God is not in a hurry. Remember, it took him 18 years to get me to where I'm at, where I'm able to let the troubles that I've been through and the hardship that we've been through and the dark valleys that he took me through, let that be nourishment to other people, bringing more people to Christianity through autism and the dark valleys of autism, right? And that is when the enemy comes in to tempt you and tell you, oh no, you should lose hope. Your child is too bad for this. You can't do this. And why me, God? And there's no plan, indicating that God can't deal with this and that you can't deal with this. He's actually shaping you through autism. Autism is a wake-up call for you to become someone you've never been. You have to die to your old self and surrender the situation to God. And let me tell you something. Guess what? 90% of the work that I do with moms has to do with understanding the distractions that tempt you into giving up hope. The trauma that you've been through that becomes an opening for the enemy to come in and distract you away from the plan and the vision that God has already put in your head. Because I don't want it to take 18 years for you. We do this with neurological changes of your brain. We do this with the changing the thinking so that you become someone who can turn symptoms around. We do that by healing you physically and emotionally so that you fit into God's design for living, and so that the enemy doesn't have access to you through your trauma responses and your stress. We do that by implementing biochemistry so that your child is not triggered by the many environmental triggers that is in this fallen world. And 90% of what I do is about removing those distractions so that you can listen to God more carefully. So it's a combination of neuroscience, health coaching, biochemical coaching, and ministry. And I haven't seen anything like that out there. And I wish I had something like this, to have a coaching community that could take me through that process that took me 18 years. Man, I could have saved time. But I was not supposed to save time, because if I had saved time, I couldn't help you the way that I can now. So those are the reasons why you're not seeing results. And by understanding and implementing these 5 pillars to turn symptoms around and God's plan and vision for you, that's when you start to see the insane results. And in the upcoming podcasts throughout the summer and fall season, you will hear from moms who understood this a year ago when they joined this turnaround program and they implemented all the steps that I'm talking about in this episode. You will be able to understand that this is God ordained. It is a miracle because they leaned in and they removed the distractions that were preventing them from seeing these results. Go to the description, leave me a message, or go straight to barefootautismwarriors.com/program to join the waitlist, or leave me a voice message. I'll leave for you to record a voice message directly in the description for this podcast episode, or send me an email. I need you to take that type of initiative. I can't work with moms who say, that's too much of a hassle to send Nick an email. If you can't send me an email, we are not going to go through those dark valleys together, because I'm going to ask much more of you in the next 6 to 12 months to get you to where you want to be. Maybe I'll talk to you via email or voice message. When you're listening to this, I'll probably be enjoying my summer vacation with my recovered son, and we tend to switch off completely. So if you're listening to this in real time, just send me an email and I'll get back to you when I'm back from that holiday. I want that vacation for you in the future, and the future starts now.